At only 22 years old, Caitlin Clark has already changed the way people view women's basketball. Throughout her college years, she broke record after record, including becoming the highest scorer ever in both men's and women's college basketball. At a time when many fans paid little attention to women's basketball, Caitlin Clark has been packing arenas and attracting supporters from all over the country, with some traveling for hours just to see her play. It is fair to say that she may be the most influential player the WNBA has ever had. Watching her for even a short moment makes it easy to understand why so many people. Yet the player often called the WNBA's GOAT, Diana Taurasi, has appeared to show some resentment toward Caitlin Clark, making several controversial comments about her. Taurasi seemed determined to take attention away from Caitlin Clark and bring the focus back to herself. What makes the situation even more unfortunate is that Taurasi was one of Clark's childhood idols. She was among the first women's basketball stars that Clark truly looked up to. When Clark entered the WNBA as a clear #1 overall draft pick, Taurasi did not reach out with support or advice about succeeding in the league Clark had dreamed about joining since she was young. Rather than encouraging her, Taurasi went on live television and seemed to minimize Clark's talent. Then, on June 30th, 2026, the two were finally scheduled to face each other, giving Diana a front-row view of what many believe is the biggest phenomenon women's basketball has ever seen. It was an extremely hot day in Phoenix, with temperatures climbing past 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Even so, 17,000 fans packed the Footprint Center for the opportunity to watch a superstar. For Caitlin, it looked like a normal day. Meeting fans, signing autographs, and feeding off the crowd's energy. For Diana Taurasi, despite 2 decades in the league, this was likely one of the most important WNBA games she had ever experienced. She was seeing things she had never witnessed before, including courtside seats selling for around $2,000 each. For comparison, the Minnesota Lynx, one of the strongest teams in the Western Conference, usually sells courtside seats for about $257. Taurasi knew how important this game was and understood that history was being made. She came out playing well, scoring efficiently and collecting assists. And by assists, I mean mostly passing to 6 feet 9 inches Brittany Griner, who stood over everyone else on the floor like a giant. As a side note, this was the first complete WNBA game in which I watched Griner play, and my immediate reaction was that her claim about being able to compete with DeMarcus Cousins, especially before his injuries, did not seem believable. The longer I watched, the clearer it became that there was no real comparison. Cousins would have completely overpowered her. That was simply my honest reaction after seeing her play a full game. But back to Taurasi. As mentioned earlier, she started well, but as the game continued, the pressure began to build, and she started feeling the full weight of the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. When I watched that sequence, my first thought was, what if that had been Diana? And what if the shot had gone in? After the Mercury jumped out to a strong lead, Caitlin and the Fever slowly began fighting their way back into the game. Taurasi tried to answer Clark late in the first quarter, but it did not work out as she expected. By that stage, She was clearly beginning to feel the pressure. The temperature outside was above 110 degrees Fahrenheit, but inside the arena, the atmosphere was even more intense, and everyone knew the reason. At the same time, Caitlin started finding her rhythm, and the hotter she got, the more I wondered why anyone had made those bold criticisms about her in the first place. In the end, Taurasi had a respectable game, but I still came away disappointed. For someone considered the WNBA's GOAT, she seemed reluctant to take on Caitlin directly. From what I observed, she challenged her only once, on a pick-and-roll play where Caitlin appeared to make a clean steal before the referee called a foul. Even after watching the replays several times, it did not look like a foul, and it felt like another questionable officiating decision. Fans have continued criticizing WNBA officials for disputed calls involving Caitlin. Another reason I was disappointed with Taurasi was that, despite her passive-aggressive remarks, she avoided guarding Caitlin for most of the game. Repeatedly, she had chances to defend her, but handed the assignment to a teammate instead. I understand that teammate may be a better defender, but if you're called the GOAT, you should embrace that challenge. Michael Jordan never avoided guarding Kobe Bryant, even in the later stages of his career. Maybe Taurasi wanted to avoid being embarrassed or ending up like her teammate. Maybe the pressure from 17,000 fans was overwhelming. Whatever the reason, she stayed away from the matchup everyone wanted to see. Things became even worse for Diana because Caitlin kept producing big plays. After Taurasi missed a three, Caitlin pushed the ball up the court and buried a deep logo three. On the next possession, she baited a defender into a turnover and then delivered a perfect assist. For a player whose game had been questioned, she was making everything look easy at one point. Phoenix led by 15 in the second half, but Caitlin led a comeback that completely changed the direction of the game. Taurasi's difficulties continued, and she contributed to her team's defeat. After missing a three-pointer on one possession, she did not get back on defense quickly enough, leading to a flagrant foul that gave Indiana 2 free throws and the ball. Later, she had an opportunity to extend the lead, but made only one of 2 free throws. On the other side, Caitlin calmly sank both of hers. By then, Taurasi's earlier swagger had disappeared, and it was hard not to wonder whether she regretted the comments she had made before the game. Diana, who had previously dismissed Clark, was now watching her team lose in front of 17,000 fans and millions more watching from home. The situation became even more painful because the Fever had not beaten a winning team all season. Yet their breakthrough victory came against her squad. After the game, Taurasi finally spoke positively about Caitlin. In the end, the entire episode, where the WNBA appeared to focus heavily on Clark, with Taurasi playing a major part in the story, was incredibly chaotic. But if you want a complete explanation of how and why Caitlin Clark became such a central figure in women's basketball, the full video covers everything from beginning to end. One of the main points from this matchup was the difference between established reputation and current momentum. Diana Taurasi came into the game as a WNBA icon with championships, MVP trophies, and 20 years of experience, while Caitlin Clark entered as the league's newest star carrying huge expectations. The script suggests that the crowd, the media coverage, and the atmosphere inside the arena were all centered on Clark, making the game feel much bigger than a normal regular season matchup. Even before the game began, it was obvious that many fans had come to witness a special moment. The game also showed how rapidly Clark has become one of the WNBA's biggest attractions. The script points to the sold-out arena, high-priced courtside seats, and nationwide attention as proof that her influence goes far beyond statistics. Whether she was hitting long-range shots, setting up teammates, or leading a comeback, every possession seemed to energize the crowd. The narrator uses this as evidence that Clark is not only performing at a high level, but is also bringing record attention and financial value to the league. Another important theme is accountability for public statements. Taurasi's earlier comments about how Clark might struggle to adapt to the WNBA created a major storyline before the game. As Clark continued making key plays and helping Indiana erase a large deficit, the script presents a matchup as a direct answer to those doubts. The message is that Clark's performance forced many critics to rethink their opinions and prove she could compete successfully against experienced veterans at the highest level. In the final moments, execution became the deciding factor. The script highlights Clark's clutch free throws, deep shooting, and playmaking while contrasting them with Taurasi's missed chances. Indiana's comeback victory is portrayed as a significant moment for both the franchise and Clark, especially because it came against a respected veteran and a winning team. According to the narrator, this was more than an ordinary regular season victory. It was a statement that the Fever and their rookie star had the ability to shift the balance of power in the league. Ultimately, the script presents the entire event as a symbolic passing of the torch moment in women's basketball. Taurasi represents the established era of WNBA greatness, while Clark represents the future and a large new audience being drawn into the sport. By the end of the game, the narrator believes the discussion had changed from whether Clark deserved the spotlight to how much she might transform the league in the years ahead. The full arena, the comeback win, and Taurasi's praise after the game are all used to support the idea that Clark's rise can no longer be ignored.